of all, we would like to welcome you from all of us. A
Okay.
very warm welcome. Happy Mother's Day in advance. Happy birthday. And we miss you for the entire year. You were here with us last year and we really enjoyed it. And we're
Yeah.
really fortunate to have you back in this way. But
Mhm.
welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the welcome. Beautiful flower. I accept it in my heart.
So, everyone knows Sister Gayatri. She is a very senior yoga instrument. She's been my mentor for many things that she got me closer to how to understand Baba's Murli. And she's our representative to United Nations.
Mhm.
Sister Gayatri is in Queens. Right now, she's in Peace Village because of the lockdown. And I always say this that she's an epitome of knowledge. So she knows Baba's Murlis, the love for Baba's Murli is in and out. And she has some great experiences with Bab Dada.
Uh,
Until date, I remember the time we spent with you in New Jersey, and I still cherish those days. And I keep going as if I was with Bab Dada, all your experiences. So thank you, sister, for joining us today.
you're welcome. And it's really nice to be with all of you. And today's Murli is on, and I'm going to put you on gallery because I want to see you all as I read the Murli. So now I can see you all in your little frames. You know, I was saying to a teenager, she was on, and I know Dia is on here, so maybe Dia will appreciate what I'm going to say. And you know, for those of you who have read the Harry Potter series, would know that there were these frames with the ones who, you know, they frame them in little in frames like portraits. That's the word, portraits. And then sometimes they would move out of their frames and go into somebody else's frame. And so that's also what I see when I look at all the frames, that you're sitting in your frame, but I can see everything you're doing. And sometimes you move out of your frame and your frame becomes blank. And then I said, which frame did that one go into, right, Dia? It was just like these portraits were moving into each other's frames. So it reminds me very much of the magic and the wizardry of life, that today we are on Zoom, and Zoom is allowing us to be in our little frames. So in Bharat, they say that the Delwara temple is our little alcove that we go and sit in and have our tapasya. And we could say in foreign lands, it's the Zoom frames that we sit in and listen to classes and murlis, right? So we have our little frames that's individually our own. So that's the wonder of technology today, in which it gives us our little frame from which to listen to Baba and to listen to Baba's children. So I'm very happy to be with you. And today's Murli, Baba is talking about happiness. And Kartik Bhai, if I go too fast, always feel free to signal me and tell me to slow down. So Baba is talking today about happiness. And you know, when we come to Baba and we get the first lesson, which is on who am I? I'm a soul. And then our second lesson is on who do I belong to? And I belong to Baba. So these are the two things. And in both lessons, actually, we're told that intrinsic in the soul are the divine qualities, are the divine virtues. And intrinsic in Baba, the Supreme Soul, he also has these virtues. And so it is said that the human soul has the same image as God, a point of light, and the same likeness as God, those divine virtues. And but then we try to create a relationship with myself, and then a relationship with Baba. But in today's Murli, Baba is asking us to create a relationship with happiness. So have I ever thought that I should create a relationship with my divine virtues, with the virtues that are original, those Adi virtues inside of me, and also the virtues inside, the same virtues are inside of Baba. And so when I create my relationship with happiness, as he's talking about today, it brings me closer to myself and it brings me closer to Baba. And the other thing in the Murli is that, you know, in the United States of America, one of our fundamental rights is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so today, Baba is making a distinction between when happiness is your right and when you go in the pursuit of happiness. So he's saying spiritual, imperishable, unlimited, alokik happiness. You don't go in pursuit of that happiness. And then he is going to outline all the different areas that we connect to when we go in pursuit of happiness. And so he wants us to check each one of those levels that we pursue happiness with and finish them, and to return to happiness being a spiritual right, a spiritual inheritance, and a divine virtue in the soul. So it's a Murli all on happiness, but it takes us into the depth of happiness. So Baba spoke this Murli on the 13th of January, 1986. And he's talking about a Brahmin life, a life of constant, unlimited happiness. Today, Bap Dada is looking at the gathering of his holy swans. So today you are swans. Do all of you always remain happy as well as holy? Holy means the visible form of purity and is constantly revealed in the form of happiness. So foundation to happiness is purity, and happiness gets revealed from that purity. If there isn't happiness, there is definitely some impurity. That is, some thoughts or deeds are not correct. And this is why there isn't happiness. Impurity does not mean just the five vices. For perfect souls, and now what is a perfect soul? A perfect soul who has an aim to become divine. It's not that they are perfect in everything they do, but their aim is clean and clear, and that makes it perfect, that they are to become divine. So for perfect souls, for those who are to become deity souls, to have incorrect, wasteful, or ordinary thoughts, words, and actions is not complete purity. You are coming close to your perfect stage. Therefore, according to the present time, let there be no wasteful or ordinary actions. There has to be the checking and the changing in this too. Normally, when we want to change, we look at just our mindsets. We look at just our thoughts in relation to what's going on in the mind. But Baba is saying that's not enough. That's a temporary thing. What you have to look at is deep inside of yourself. Look at your consciousness of purity. And then plant the seeds in that consciousness, because thoughts are just seeds. Thought is a unit of soul consciousness. And so to look at yourself just on the basis of your thoughts is not dealing with the root causes of the problems. You're just trying to deal with it at the symptoms level. But Baba wants us to go into the causes, to go into the consciousness. And that's why he's identifying purity as foundational to happiness. So he says, you're coming close to your perfect stage. Therefore, according to the present time, let there be no wasteful or ordinary actions. There has to be checking and changing in this too. The more powerful and elevated your thoughts, words, and actions are, the more you will experience the sparkle of happiness and the intoxication of being fortunate, and also give that experience to others. Bap Dada was checking these two things in you children. Two things he's checking. What are those two things? To what extent have you imbibed purity? Secondly, to what extent is there still anything wasteful or ordinary? Two things. And to what extent do you have spiritual happiness, imperishable happiness, and inner happiness? And he's going to take up the distinction between these levels of happiness: spiritual happiness, imperishable happiness, and inner happiness. The aim of all the Brahmin children who adopt this Brahmin life, what's your aim? To remain constantly happy. You have become Brahmins in order to lead a life of happiness. You have not become Brahmins to make effort laboriously with a lot of labor, mehnat, or always to be experiencing one form of upheaval or another, have you? Why have we become Brahmins? What's the aim of our Brahmin life? You have become Brahmins in order to attain spiritual inner happiness and supersensuous joy, which cannot be attained throughout the rest of the whole cycle. However, you have to check that your happiness is not based on any facilities. Now, this is the pursuit of happiness, in which we go after facilities. We go after the material world to get our happiness. And that's called the pursuit of happiness. So Baba is saying we have to check to make sure that our happiness is not based on any facilities, limited attainment, temporary success, respect or glory, or limited desires of the mind you have received, or because you have you like a particular person, place, or possession. So all sound familiar, right? That we usually go toward these areas in order to get happiness. Baba says, check that your happiness is not based on your personal likings. The happiness based on those things is not real happiness. It is not imperishable happiness. Even people of the world have happiness based on temporary attainments. Their slogan in the world is eat, drink, and be merry. However, when that temporary support ends, their happiness also ends. In Brahmin life too, if you experience happiness based on those supports, then what is the difference? You have become the children of the ocean of happiness, and you are therefore those who flow with the waves of happiness in every thought and every second. You are constant treasures of happiness. And this is called being a holy and a happy swan. So you are that swan that Baba sees as a treasure. You're like the Swarovski swan. Have you ever seen that Swarovski swan that costs so much of money? Yet it's one of the most beautiful swans out there in the world. And then you get it, you feel so happy. Now Baba says, you are Shiva's swan, not Swarovski, but you are Shiva's swan. You are the treasure of happiness. And this is called being a holy and happy swan. Baba was seeing that your aim is to have inner happiness. Now, what is inner happiness? Inner happiness is happiness without any limited support. However, some children move away from their aim and instead become trapped in the small side streets of limited attainments. In this way, they become distant from their aim, that is, from their destination. They leave the highway and become trapped in the side streets. So, you're going to your place, you're traveling from one city or the other, and there's a roadblock. You have to exit and go into side streets. Then what happens if you don't have your GPS or a map?
Get lost.
You get lost. And so it's the same thing. We leave the highway of our happiness and we go into the side streets, and then we get lost in limited attainments. If today their name is glorified, and he's talking about the limited happiness in contrast to the inner happiness, if today their name is glorified or their work is accomplished and their desires are fulfilled, then they are happy. If they attain something they like or their thoughts are fulfilled, then they are very happy. Now, both these types of temporary happiness are connected to the mind. If there is something lacking even slightly, they become stuck and their aim remains on one side. They put aside the aim of happiness and they get stuck in the unhappiness, in the disappointment. Their aim becomes limited and they therefore step away from the unlimited, imperishable happiness. So today Baba was asking, is this why you became Brahmins? Another question. Why have I become a Brahmin?
It's because it's confluence age.
Now, is that why you became a Brahmin? Because it's the confluence age?
You have to go to golden age.
And so you became a Brahmin because of the confluence age?
Oh, because it's time to go to golden age.
So you are, what is the golden age?
Golden age is like it's like an age where everything is perfect and it's like heaven. Yeah.
And how would you know that that's true?
Based on Baba's knowledge.
And how do you know Baba's knowledge is true?
Because we follow it and we know we have lots of proof from everyone who follows this.
What about you? What's your proof?
My proof is that before I didn't know this knowledge, I was very violent. But when I came here, I became very calm.
So you taste the happiness, right?
Yeah.
So that's the proof. It's what you experience from it.
So
this is what he's saying. Don't give that up. Don't give the happiness that what Baba's knowledge is giving to you for anything temporary. So that's the confluence age. But that's what it's all about. So you didn't become a Brahmin because of the confluence age, but you became a Brahmin because you can experience truth. And one of the truths is that you are a treasure of happiness. And your happiness doesn't depend on anything outside of you and Baba, right? And once you experience that, then you know you're at the confluence age. Otherwise, you think you're at the confluence age, but you're unhappy. That means you're in the iron age, right? So Baba is saying this is a very, thank you very much for engaging, because it will make sense to others too. So Baba is saying, so Baba is asking, is that why you have become Brahmins? To step away from the confluence age and go back to the iron age? From the unlimited to the limited? Is this why you have adopted this spiritual life? To be entangled in your attachments? And those attachments bring you sorrow and take away your happiness? That is an ordinary life. That is not called an elevated life. So no matter what work you do, no matter how big the service task is that you are carrying out, now he's talking within the context of a Brahmin life, within the context of seva. So no matter what work you do, no matter how big the service task is that you are carrying out, anything that brings you down from attaining inner happiness, spiritual pleasure, and unlimited happiness, that is anything that brings you into the limited. And what is the limited? That if today there is pleasure and tomorrow there is confusion, today there is happiness and tomorrow you are put into a turmoil, if it deprives you of happiness, that task or that seva that you're doing, then put aside that service, but do not let go of your happiness. Right? So if I cannot get this new cell phone, the new iPhone that has just come out, then it shouldn't take my happiness away. Put the cell phone away, but don't let go of your happiness. So that's what he's saying. If there isn't this experience, then that service is mixed. So he's saying, but don't let go of your happiness. Real service always gives you the experience of an unlimited stage and unlimited happiness. If there isn't that experience, then that service is mixed. These are very deep points in the Murli for you to check. I hope you are following Baba at a deeper level. And that is not real service. So always keep the aim of experiencing self-progress. Now he's going to list what we should look for. Self-progress, attainment for the self, contentment, and greatness by doing service. That is called seva. The English word is service, but seva is something that is done selflessly. Where there is greatness, where there is the greatness of contentment, there will be the experience of imperishable attainment. Service means to enable the flower garden to flourish, both inside and outside. Your life is a flower garden. Your soul is a flower garden. Your family is a flower garden. So if you're serving yourself or serving your family, there should be flourishing. Service means to experience the flower garden and not to become trapped in the jungle of thorns. Some lack of attainment, lack of pleasure, or confusion in the mind, to experience pleasure one moment and to become confused the next. These are thorns. To step away from these thorns means to experience unlimited happiness. No matter what happens, even if you have to renounce limited attainment, even if you have to renounce many things, Let go of those things, but do not let go of your happiness. Now, the time is coming when this will be tested in our lives. Coronavirus, COVID-19, is the biggest teacher so far in the life of humanity. So we'll have many, many lessons. And so Baba is preparing us to pass the tests that COVID-19 will be bringing to our lives. Do not step away from the aim with which you have come here. Carry out this subtle checking. You are happy, but make sure that you do not consider happiness based on temporary attainments to be your happiness. Check that you do not consider any side scenes, distraction, to be your destination. For sightseeings can be attractive. However, to reach your destination means to claim a right to the unlimited kingdom. Those who step aside from their destination cannot claim a right to the kingdom of the world. They cannot even become part of the royal family. Therefore, always keep your aim and your destination. Now, he's not saying in your mind, but what he's saying, keep it in your awareness, your smriti, not your man, your smriti, your awareness. Ask yourself while moving along, I haven't gone into any limited streets, have I? The happiness of temporary attainment is not making you step away from the fortune of eternal happiness, is it? You are not those who are happy with just a little, are you? You are not just those who please yourself by your thinking. Now, this is why our minds are very tricky, because our minds can trick us through the way we think. And so that's why Baba is saying, go into your awareness, because that is not tricky. And so he's saying, do not just please yourself thinking, whatever I am, however I am fine and I'm happy. Have you ever, do you remember thinking like that at some point of time in your life? You don't think like this, are you? You're not just pleasing your mind with these thoughts, are you? The sign of imperishable happiness is that you will definitely, constantly be attaining blessings of happiness from others. So imperishable happiness is like the Ashirwad, in which you get blessings from seniors and from God that become imperishable in your life. The blessings of love from Bap Dada and the seniors will give you the experience of internally moving along in an ocean of alokik and spiritual happiness. Out of carelessness, again, he's saying, don't think. Do not think, I'm fine, but others do not know me. You know, these are all strands of ego of the mind. Baba is saying, can the light of the sun remain hidden? The fragrance of truth can never end. It cannot remain hidden. Therefore, never allow yourself to be deceived. No one can deceive me. I deceive myself. That's a spiritual principle. Make this lesson firm. First is your unlimited, imperishable happiness. And next is anything else, right? So when you're looking at happiness, anything else would be the pursuit of happiness with all those layers Baba identified. But Baba says, let your imperishable happiness be first, and then anything else. Unlimited happiness will automatically enable you to experience the elevated fortune of service, fortune of everyone's love, and the fortune of receiving imperishable respect from everyone. Are you following Baba? Are you following what Baba is saying?
Yes.
Okay. So those who are constantly happy are constantly fortunate. They easily receive all attainments. What's constantly fortunate? They easily receive all attainments without effort, without any desires, and without saying anything. They don't, without saying anything means they don't beg for it. I want and I need is not in their vocabulary. Have you made this lesson firm? Bap Dada is seeing why you have come. Now, this is a very lovely sentence. Bap Dada is looking at each one of us and he's seeing why you have come, where you have come to, and where you are going. If you have renounced the limited, which means if why I came to Baba was to renounce the limited, and now he's seeing where I'm going, but you are still going into the limited, then when will you experience the unlimited? Very nice sentence. Bap Dada has love for you children. You would not call it mercy because you're not beggars. You are the children of the bestower and the bestower of fortune. Mercy is for those who are sorrowful. You are embodiments of happiness because you are the children of the bestower of happiness. So do you understand what you have to do? One is to understand the distinctions of spiritual happiness and temporary happiness. And then what do I have to do to remove the layers of my dependencies? This year, Bap Dada is repeatedly drawing your attention to various things. And this was 1986. It was the year of the Golden Jubilee of the Brahma Kumaris. It was the year of the UN International Year of Peace. And we did a huge project called the Million Minutes of Peace Appeal that went to 129 countries and collected billions of minutes of peace through meditation and reflection and prayer. And the BKs got 7 awards from the UN, different countries, and 1 international award. And it was also the year of the Universal Peace Conference. So Baba was paying a lot of attention to this year because many big things were happening. But he was bringing back our attention to paying attention to ourselves. And you could really see 2020 so far, when we were on lockdown, when we were on social distancing, when we were in self-quarantine, what do? We have to pay attention to ourselves because this is an opportunity that is given to us. So Baba says, people of the world simply say, eat, drink, and be merry. However, Bap Dada says, eat, but share with others, serve others. Stay in pleasure, but bring pleasure to others. And this is called meaningful engagements. You could have social distancing, but you could still have meaningful engagements. To those, Baba says, Aksha, to those who constantly stay in imperishable and unlimited happiness, to those who experience the fortune of happiness in every act, to those who distribute the treasure of happiness to everyone, to those who always spread the fragrance of happiness, to those who always move along with waves of zeal and enthusiasm of happiness, to those who constantly maintain their sparkle and intoxication, to the elevated souls who attain the elevated aim, that is love, remembrance, and namaste, to keep you constantly holy and happy. And then Bab is meeting with groups. And he's talking about a family life. And many of you are in family lives. I could see it from your little frame. And so Bab is saying, while living with your families, you're always detached and loving to the Father, are you not? Right? So Sister Mohini has described social distancing as being detached and loving. It's not social distancing, it's distance and loneliness, but social distancing is being detached and loving. That's what we have to apply now. We've been hearing it as a spiritual concept, but now the physical world is facing it. And while others are in sorrow, we know how to be detached, but at the same time, continue to be loving. You're never attached to your families, are you? So now he's saying something very significant. If there is attachment to anyone, that attachment becomes an obstacle in your life for all time. Now here, it's not the person that you're attached to who is at fault for the attachment. Attachment is a weakness in the soul that's being projected on a person, a place, a position, or a possession that you own. But the weakness is not the person, it's in you. So it will remain with you for all time. Therefore, remain constantly free from obstacles and continue to move forward. Become angad, as in the previous cycle, and remain unshakable and immovable. What specialty is Angad shown to have? His intellect had such faith that no one could shake his foot. Maya will come in various ways to try and make your faith in the form of your foot shake. However, Maya may shake, but the foot of your faith must not shake. Maya surrenders herself to you. You will not surrender to her, will you? Surrender yourself to the Father, not to Maya. Those whose intellects have such faith always remain carefree. If there is the slightest worry, faith is lacking. When there is sometimes the slightest worry about something, the reason for that is definitely a lack of faith in something or the other, whether it is faith in the drama, whether there is a lack of faith in the drama, a lack of faith in oneself, or a lack of faith in the Father. So as soon as I worry, it tells me I'm lacking in faith in one of these three. If there is the slightest lack of faith in any of the three types of faith, you cannot remain carefree. And what's the biggest illness in today's world? The biggest illness is worry. So, there's a saying in mental illness is that the past, I'm angry with my past, and anger creates depression. I'm fearful of my future, and fear creates anxiety. And the present, there is sadness, there is grief, and there's worry. So where am I? Of course, I'm mentally sick, right? And everyone is today suffering from one of these, past, present, or future mental illness. So nobody could say, oh, I don't have mental illness. So this is what Bob is saying. The biggest illness is worry, which is connected to mental illness. Even doctors don't have any cure for the illness of worry. They might give you sleeping pills to put you to sleep temporarily, but they will not be able to cure your illness for all time. The more those with worry, and why do I worry? What happens to me when I worry? This is what Bob is saying. When the more those with worry run after some attainment, this is when I pursue from the material world the attainment I want in life to make me feel secure. So Bob is saying that will make you feel secure because it will be taken back from you. You took it from the material world. Anything taken from the material world, you'll have to give it back to the material world. So the more those with worry run after attainment, the more that attainment runs ahead of them or away from them. Therefore, always let the foot of your faith remain unshakable. The foot means constantly to have one strength and one support. Whether you call it strength or faith, it is the same thing. Victory for the children whose intellects have such faith is guaranteed. Now, God has given you a guarantee. So the guarantee is, be like Angad. Do not let your faith shake, because that's what Maya is working on, and Maya is an illusion. And the second point is, do you always surrender yourselves to the Father? The second group Baba is talking to. Do you always surrender yourselves to the Father? You are the ones who will fulfill the promise you made on the path of devotion, are you not? Do you remember your promise you made on the path of devotion in your last birth? Or even in this birth? So he's coming. Now it's time to fulfill that promise. So he's asking us first, do you remember a promise? So what did you promise? What did you promise? When you go in front, before you came to Baba and you went in front of the idols, what did you sing? What was your favorite song? And that will remind you of your promise. That you will always surrender yourself to him. My mind, my body, my wealth. To surrender means to remain constantly surrender and to become powerful. So have you surrendered, or are you going to surrender? To surrender means nothing is mine. You know, we say that, lip service, we say it with our words, but do we really understand nothing is mine? You know, that trustee, that stage of being a trustee. The consciousness of mine finishes. Even the body is not mine. So do you ever become body conscious? It is when you have the consciousness of mine that there is body consciousness. To remain beyond even this consciousness means to surrender. Therefore, continue to finish the consciousness of mine for all time. Continue to experience everything as Baba's, as yours. The more experienced you become, that nothing is mine, you know, these are all spiritual principles. There's siddhis that if we embody, we will be victorious. So he says, the more experienced you become in nothing is mine, the more you become an embodiment of authority. So that's the siddhi, the success. You will get the authority over that which you renounced, which you surrendered to Baba. Such ones, and when you have spiritual authority, such ones can never be deceived. The body will never deceive you. The body will work in cooperation with you. They cannot experience waves of sorrow. So always continue to relate stories of your experience to everyone. An experienced soul attains greater success in a short time. Acha. And then you know of Daddy Janki leaving her body. You know, she always said, I don't want a lot of money to be spent on my body. I don't want people spending money to come to my funeral. And she always said, I will leave my body at the right time. And when I leave my body, matter will support me. And we all heard that the night of the 26th, there was a Bay of March. There was a huge storm with the rain and the wind and the thunder and the lightning. And it was totally in upheaval. And at 2:30 that morning, Daddy left her body. And the next morning at 9 o'clock or whenever it was, they all gathered together to start leaving, let the body leave from the hospital and go all the way to be cremated in Shantivan. It was bright sunshine. It was the eye of the storm. And so it was as if nature supported her transition in such a beautiful way that everything started off from a state of disorder to take the body. And then once the body was transitioned, then everything became calm. So just think about this powerful soul and the impact it has on matter and what matter goes through. And she left her body early hours of the morning, which was Amrit Vela. So all these things are interesting to observe, how the external stars come into alignment to allow the soul to transition, to allow the success of the soul to be expressed, because matter will support the authority of the soul, and matter will trash those without authority. Matter will punish those without authority. So this is why Baba is saying the great success is about the spiritual authority you have accumulated. And then there was this big festival, Makar Sankranti. And I don't know how many of you, just show me a hand. How many of you celebrated it in India? Because I heard there are many places in India that celebrated it, but like the Punjabis celebrated it with a different name. The South Indians celebrated it. So Makar Sankranti, I suppose, is from South India. The South Indians would celebrate this. But I got a very nice understanding of it from someone that I read the Murli to earlier, and I will read it to you. It's very, very beautiful. And then maybe you could all share on it as well. So it's in the foreign lands, it is called the Easter Monday, when we all go out and fly our kites. And Easter Monday is the time of the ascension of Christ. So the soul of Christ ascended 3 days after Good Friday, Easter Monday. And so the kites indicate an ascension. And so here it is also the flying of kites, but for different reasons. So Baba is leaving at the time of farewell, love and remembrances, giving love and remembrances for the 14th of January, the day that Makar Sankranti, the festival of flying kites, is celebrated. People have marked the significance of this day by always eating and serving food to others. They eat something and they serve something to others, right? All the festivals are like this. You eat and you give others to eat. It's all about food somehow. They either donate sesame seeds or they eat them. Sesame seeds are very tiny points. When something happens, and it may be something very minor, they say that it is like a sesame seed, like a mustard seed, but sesame seeds are more subtle than mustard seeds. If it is big, it is said to be like a mountain. So there is a great difference between a mountain and a sesame seed. Significance is given to sesame seeds because you become extremely subtle points, Jyoti Bindu, like a sesame seed. It is when you become point forms that you become kites in the flying stage. So this stage that Baba talks about, the flying stage, is only experienced when I become a Jyoti Bindu. So sesame seeds also have significance. Sesame seeds are always mixed together with something sweet. Sesame seeds are never eaten by themselves. Sweetness is a sign of bringing them together with love. When something sweet is mixed with the seeds, you enjoy them. Like you put jaggery with the sesame seeds, because sesame seeds by nature remain single. They remain separate. But you add sweetness to it, Baba says, and it comes together in love. And that's the only toli we're given for Madhuban when we're going far distances, because it takes a long time for the sesame seeds toli to go bad, because it has a long life to it. You can eat it like almost 2 or 3 years after you got it. So Baba is saying that when you bring it together, the seeds, sweetness is a sign of bringing them together with love. When something sweet is mixed with the seeds, you enjoy them. If you were to eat the sesame seeds by themselves, you would find them bitter. But when something sweet is mixed with them, they are yummy. They are very good. So when you souls come into a relationship with sweetness, when you have that love, you become elevated. So this is a memorial of collective sweetness. It's very nice. There is a symbol of that too. So always bring the power of the gathering into yourself. On the basis of sweetness, become a point form and be a kite and fly in the flying stage. That is the significance of this day. So to celebrate means to become. You become this, whereas those souls simply celebrate it for a short time. To donate here means to donate whatever weaknesses you have. So this is also a time to donate your weakness. Just consider it, your weakness, whatever it is, to be something minor, a sesame seed, and donate it. So that's why they burn sesame seeds in the Havan Kund, because it's the weaknesses being made into something as small as a sesame seed and burnt. Consider it to be like a sesame seed and give it away to Baba. Do not consider it to be something major and think, I have to renounce it? I have to give it away? No. Donate it while considering it to be something small as a sesame seed. Consider it to be something minor and give it away happily. This is the significance of donating. Do you understand? Always be loving, always remain part of the gathering, and always consider something major to be something minor and finish it. These are all not mindsets. These are all a change of consciousness. So you change, you give your consciousness a twist, and the mind will follow that consciousness. But if you change it just at the mind, you change the mindset, you suppress the consciousness. You change it to the level of consciousness and the mind, it will flow through the mind. It will unblock the mind and flow through. So, Baba is saying, you have to do this thing of changing it. So donate it while considering it to be something as small as a sesame seed. Consider it to be something minor and give it away happily. This is the significance of donating. Do you understand? Always be loving, always remain part of the gathering, and always consider something major to be something minor and finish it by burning it in the fire. This is the significance. So have you celebrated So you have celebrated, have you not? You have lit the fire of determined thought, of determined action. People especially light a fire on this day. So this is the day for transforming sanskaras. They call it Sankranti, and you call it the day for transforming sanskaras. Acha, love, remembrance, and good morning to everyone for remaining constantly successful with love and the power of the gathering. So this is very, very beautiful. Are you ready to give up your sesame seed of weakness? Are you ready to put it in the fire of Baba's love? Or you so love it that you don't want to give it up? Your weakness has become your comfort zone, right? Then the blessing. May you constantly stay in the awareness of God and your fortune and become a most elevated, fortunate soul. At the confluence age, God serves his children in the living form. On the path of devotion, everyone serves God. But here, at the confluence age, God himself serves you, the living idols. How does he serve you? He awakens you at Amrit Vela. He offers bhog to you, and he puts you to sleep. You know, at the beginning of the yajna, they used to go to sleep with the song, Soja Rajkumari Soja. So those who go to sleep at the record, the song played at night, and those who awaken with the record of Amrit Vela. We Brahmins are especially loved and are the most elevated, fortunate souls. Constantly continue to swing in the happiness of this fortune. Simply become those who are especially loved by the Father, not by Maya. Those who are loved by Maya play a lot of childish games. And the slogan? To give the experience of all attainments with your cheerful face is real service. To give the experience of all attainments with your cheerful face is real service. And of course, Sonia Ben, you will read the point to them for tonight for the World Meditation Hour that Baba has given at the end of the Murli at the end. Now, I wanted to talk a little about this Sankranti, and I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but however you say it, Sankranti. And according to the South Indians, and I find it very, very an interesting connection to Gyan and yoga and the practice, because sometimes Baba uses these words and talk about the festivals, but we never understand the significance of it. So this is from that South Indian person who sent me a write-up on it, and I really liked what she said about it. So she said it is popularly celebrated as the harvest festival during the month of January. And in that particular year of 1986, it fell on the 14th of January. And it marks the movement from winter to spring, which comes from the revolution, Kranti, of the earth around the sun. The word Kranti means revolution, and it can be thought of as something revolving, something circular, something as a wheel of fortune, something cyclical. And it starts with this one thought, this revolving, you know, it goes second by second by second. And it's the same principle of spinning the cycle of self-realization. So Kranti is like a remembrance of this cyclical movement of things. She says also many people think of revolution as a violent transition. So they use it within the context of wars or oppositions. But in the spiritual context, kranti or revolution is to really evolve a space in which transformation takes place. So it elevates the space. So the revolution goes like this, it's an upward spiral. So it's allowing the space for a transformation to take place. And so within this upward spiral of the movement of the confluence age, people, the souls, move out of the winter of their lives and emerge into the spring of their lives. So Iron Age is like the winter, the darkness. The Golden Age is like the spring. So they're moving out of the winter of their souls into the spring of their souls. And so it allows for a new growth in the soul, and it allows for literally the soul to uprise, the uprising of this revolution. It's an uprising of something new and something generative and something beautiful leading us to spring. And this is why the Christians use it, the flying of the kite, use it for something like the rising of Christ, the ascension, because it's the time that the soul ascends from the winter into the spring. And then she said the word Makhar refers to the month of January, in which it refers to Capricorn. And it is dedicated to the celebration of the sun. So it's a time that you pay homage to the sun. And then she says the sesame seeds that are associated with the festival is important because they eat it at that time. The sesame seeds are eaten at that time. And she says they have a very, and this is very important for you now with dealing with the COVID-19 problem. So she says the sesame seeds have a very potent medicinal and health benefit. And by eating it, your physical immune system is boosted. And it is boosted against bodily viruses. And sesame seeds strengthen the body, and why people feel spiritual endeavor, people who are on spiritual endeavors feel that they needed to strengthen the immune system of the body. It's because it allowed them to pursue their spiritual endeavors more. But then you think about it now that we're looking for always natural things to keep our immune system boosted. So just eat a spoonful of sesame seeds every day. Those of you with diabetes, don't take it with sugar, with jaggery. Just put a spoon in your mouth and chew the thing, and it will boost your immune system. And so I wanted to share that because it was a profound piece of the Murli. And for us double foreigners, when we hear these big words and these kind of words that we don't understand, it just kind of, it just goes over our intellects. And when we hear the way that Baba talks about it, and if we did do some research, then it puts it within a very beautiful spiritual context and gives us a frame to look into, to see what really is going on inside of us and how it got expressed on the path of devotion, and then to come back to the source of what got expressed, because that is what is happening now. And I'm finding it very fascinating for myself that during this social distancing and lockdown, I'm at Peace Village, and so I've been here since March 27th. And so everything is locked down. Nobody's coming. You're on Zoom. And I feel like a caterpillar. Being on Zoom, sometimes I feel like a caterpillar. I'm eating grass. In the sense that I'm talking. I'm doing 3 and 4. And all it's not giving me time to see within myself. So now I'm taking a week, starting Amrit Village tomorrow. And I'm going into silence. I want to be in the chrysalis. I want to go into the cocoon. I want to go and look inside of myself as though I have no form and shape or nothing, like what happens in the chrysalis, because I want to emerge as a butterfly And butterflies, the caterpillar eats the grass, but the butterfly feeds on nectar. So, but before the butterfly can feed on the nectar, because one is knowledge is grass, the other is knowledge is nectar. And so if I'm a caterpillar, I will just see the words and I want more of Baba's words and I want to hear what he says and I can't miss the Murli, but it's all in my mind. It's my mind and intellect working like that on the knowledge. But when you become a butterfly, it goes into your sanskaras. And the whole soul emerges as a whole being and tastes the nectar of what Baba is giving. So I'm going to be doing this for until next Sunday. I'm going to be in silence and I can afford to do it because I'm at Peace Village. And I'm going to look at the formation of what is emerging inside of me and give it this space of silence. It's like, you know, the Kranti, a revolution that is evolving you into a space in which transformation can take place in a very natural way. And so I'm going to be experimenting with that. And as well, I'm going to be looking at my relationship with happiness. What is the source of my happiness? Am I in pursuit of happiness? Or do I see happiness as a birthright, as a spiritual inheritance? So that's what I'll be doing. So do you want to ask me any questions? And just a heads up, I have another conference call at 11. And so I'll have to leave like at about 5 of 11 to get onto that. My time, of course, New York time.
So we have about 20 minutes.
Yes.
So quickly, who has questions? You can just unmute yourself and ask your question.
Om Shanti, sister.
Om Shanti, you're echoing for some reason. Go on.
Sorry about that. You said just in
Tell
what
me
you
your
were.
name first. Tell me your name.
Oh,
So I
I'm sorry. Om Shanti, sister. I'm Hiro, and I've
Hira.
been yes, and I've been in GAN for about 11 years now.
Mhm.
Something you said in the while reading the Murli was that we have to go beyond the thought process and have it become into our consciousness for us to really transform or attain something. And I wanted to kind of connect that with what you just said about becoming a butterfly versus a caterpillar. So can you maybe briefly explain to me how or what I need to understand about like how to get it into the conscious level versus the thought level?
Okay. Well, you know, when we take the knowledge of the soul and the introduction is given to us about the soul, we get the introduction on the basis of the abilities of the soul. So the lesson is focused on the mind, the intellect, and the sanskaras. And so what happens is that in most cases, we explore soul consciousness at the basis of the mind, on the basis of how I think. Or we explore soul consciousness at the basis on how I make my decisions and choices. But I don't explore soul consciousness on the basis of conscience, memories, sanskaras. So consciousness is what are my memories and what are my sanskaras. That's called the consciousness of the soul. It's called the consciousness that determines my thoughts. And Baba refers to it as soul consciousness versus body consciousness. So my mind will always be the screen to reflect to me what my senses are directing in terms of thoughts. Because my mind works very closely with my senses, and my senses are connected to the material world. So the catalysts for my thoughts are usually what is filtered through my senses. And that's what the mind is working with all the time. So even if I were to say, Baba says, you are a pure soul or you are a peaceful soul, I will hear it. My ear will hear it from the person saying it to me, or my eyes will see it from the Murli. And then I would take that as a thought form and I would put it around. I would start, it would start turning around in my mind. And then I would say, and when a negative thought comes, oh no, you're not a peaceful soul, because look at what's happening, and you're not a peaceful soul, because it's creating, again, from the outside, thoughts that are not peaceful. So within the domain of the mind, the container of the mind, I'm struggling to substitute my thoughts. But it's still, the catalyst is still the outer world that the thoughts are coming into the mind from. And so I may want to change that positive thought into a negative, or a negative into a positive, depending on my mood at that moment. And I'm suppressing things. It's not transformation that's occurring. It's just a suppression of one over the other. But then Baba says that you have what is called sanskaras, and you have memories, and you have a vivek, which means your conscience. And what is the moral conscience of the decision is the moral compass of your conscience. Your conscience is your moral compass. It will tell you what direction to go in. But if you connect the conscience to the mind, the conscience is a weak conscience. If you connect the conscience to your sanskaras, because now what happens in the sanskaras, which is connecting you to your consciousness, is that you realize you have a split personality. You have a personality that is an acquired personality, and you have a personality that is an original personality. So when someone says the path of Raj Yoga is to take you to your authentic self, that authentic self is your consciousness. Which consciousness am I in? If it's a soul consciousness, in which I'm going now to my identity, I'm going now to who I am as a personality, I'm going now into my characteristics to determine what character I have. So then, what is the characteristics that is original to me is based on when Baba says, well, your rights are your characteristics. So if I have a right to love, then how does it not show up in my thoughts, but how does it show up in my characteristics? What are the characteristics that I uniquely have that makes me into a loving being, and so therefore allows me to love another? So then love is generated from a consciousness that is originally to you, and you are not the recipient of love, but you are the giver of love, because love generates from a consciousness that is called soul consciousness. So when I live in that consciousness, which gets formed in the chrysalis, it will make me a butterfly. But if I'm in the consciousness of a caterpillar, I will be eating the grass of thoughts. But when I'm in the consciousness of the chrysalis, I know that deeper personality traits are getting formed in me that are original to me. And this is why the path of Raj Yoga is a lifestyle. Meditation is a practice. So if I do only meditation, it means that I will stay at the level of changing the negative to positive, the darkness to light, at the level of my mind and intellect. And it's like a ping pong game. The intellect is hitting what the mind is bringing in from the outside. And there, I think I'm making decisions, but I'm not making decisions. I'm not able to discern because I'm operating in the domain of the material. But when I go into what soul consciousness is all about, what is the divine, what are the divine sanskaras within me? And what are my acquired personality? And I see the difference at the level of my personality, then I'm transforming consciousness at that level. And that requires me to be in a long period of time in remembrance of who I am and who I belong to. So this Raj Yoga is to be in yoga, the soul in yoga, but the Supreme Soul, and the Supreme Soul is responding to the soul, but it's responding to the soul's sanskaras. their personality traits, and it's removing memories from the soul that are determined. Those memories, your chit, it's called the chit. The memories in the soul are determining your responses. And so to be in yoga at the level of your sanskaras, it means the sanskaras, when they're transformed, they transform the memory. And so your responses would come from the transformation of the sanskara and the memory. And so, for instance, if I had a bad experience with someone, and that would keep coming on, and I'll keep struggling with it. But if I take it within me and say, you know, I did an action with this person that left a sanskara within me, and that sanskara is driving a memory, and that memory is making me behave toward this person in a certain way, then I can't change my feeling. It's very difficult to change a feeling that I have for someone, and my mind wouldn't let me feel it, wouldn't make me change that feeling, but my sanskara would. Because what happens in the sanskara, the hurt is replaced by the love of God. And then the soul becomes generous to say, you know, if I can receive God's love, why would I hold a grudge or a pain or a sorrow towards someone else? They can't deceive me because I now have God's love, and nothing can deceive me when I have God's love. Now that's a sanskara level. And so I think that that is something that we need to look at, but we have to look at it at consciousness and not just at mind. Does that make sense?
Sister, thank you so much. It was perfect, exactly what I needed. Thank you, Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
So,
I have a
sister,
question.
on what level does the smriti work? So smriti is our conscience or vivek because of our smriti? And then I wanted to explain about bhavna and bhasna too.
Now, those are two very different things. Well, let's stay with the smriti. When we give the course to someone, and this is why it's important to give the course not as pop psychology, but it's important to give the course on the basis of Baba's knowledge. So when he talks about soul, he talks about soul as mind, intellect, and sanskaras. And that's the abilities of the soul. And he says, you're not immune to the effects of your action because your mind is part of the soul. And this, every action you do leaves a consequence that forms an impression that is called a sanskara. Now, we explain that to people. And so people then become responsible for cleansing out themselves, settling their karmic accounts, and not creating further bad karmic accounts, because they're aware of the philosophy of karma in relation to the soul. But what we don't explain to the soul is the spiritual spine on which these three abilities work. And the spiritual spine we have referred to as the spiritual trajectory, because it is this spine, it's just like how the spine in the body determines the movement of your fluids. This spine in the soul, which is called the spiritual spine or the spiritual trajectory, will determine the way soul consciousness works. The movement of thought in the soul. So thoughts are not just at the level of mind, but thoughts run through the whole soul because it's a unit of the soul. It's not a unit of the mind. And so what happens is that if I understand the spiritual trajectory or the spiritual spine, then I will understand smriti in its right way. Because what is the spiritual spine? Baba said, it's consciousness, smriti, it's attitude, it's vision, and it's action. So that's the flow, that's the spine that the soul conscious light flows through. And if we don't give the spine, then people are left with the mind, because psychologically, there's been a lot of work done psychologically on the mind. And so it's a comfort zone for us. But to take them into the Smriti would require us to show them how this trajectory works and how the soul works within the context of the trajectory. And so that is why they have to understand that thoughts are not created just in the mind. There is a consciousness that's determining the thoughts that I'm creating. And so the consciousness is who I am. I'm a soul or I'm a body. So which consciousness is determining the quality of thoughts I'm producing? So I have to go back and say, am I soul conscious or am I body conscious? And so if I'm soul conscious, I'm able to let go and let be. If I'm body conscious, I'm reckoning. The thoughts become very different. They're looking for justice. They're looking for all sorts of reckoning. And so to be a soul, Baba says, you simply have to say, I am a soul. I am a being of light. I'm a whole being. I'm not a fragmented being. I'm a soul. I'm an intellect. I'm a mind. I'm a sanskaras. And I work within the trajectory of my smriti, my attitude, my vision, and my action. So they will run parallel. They're together. And so that's what's called consciousness. Am I soul conscious or am I body conscious? So I'm moving into the container from which I think, you know, and that's what needs to be understood. Now, conscience or vivek is with the intellect. The intellect, a deeper level, the intellect has got a lot of abilities. The intellect can remember, the intellect can decide, the intellect can discern, the intellect can understand, the intellect can reason. But below those abilities, the intellect has what's called a vivek, a conscience. So between the sanskaras and the abilities of my intellect is my conscience, which is now dead because it's not activated. And the reason it's dead is because I never knew I was a soul and I'm a divine being. My spiritual identity is divinity. So once I get that information and I experience myself to be a soul with my like ancestry then is divinity, then that activates my conscience in terms of what's the direction the conscience wants to work in, because the conscience is my moral compass. It determines the morality of my actions. And so that moral compass of the conscience will either be body conscious, which will be divisive, or it will be soul conscious, which will be a unified conscience. And so the conscience is, if I'm drawing up a policy, am I drawing that policy on the basis of past actions and historical wars and historical things in which I'm alienating people, or I'm alienating others, and I'm just giving a group of people the rights? That would be a body conscious consciousness that I'm working in. If I work with my soul conscious, and I said, Baba says it's a tree of humanity, God is the seed, no matter what were the karmic accounts based on body consciousness in this seed, everyone has a right to God's inheritance. Now, if I'm drawing a policy up with that consciousness, then my conscience, the morality of my conscience would then help me to make a decision that is in the direction of rights for all. Just hold on 1 minute. Raj, that's it. And it's money. Hold on a minute. I'll just mute myself 1 minute. Sorry, that was one.
No,
Raj is leaving for the city and I had to give her
please
something.
tell us you can extend the call.
No, I could do another ritual starting the week of the 25th. But you see, this is what is, I think we need to understand is that our mind is not the driving force of what we do. It is our sanskaras. And that's where the soul, the driving force of the soul is its sanskaras. And the mind is just where I see everything moving. You know, it's the surface level of things. But to strengthen my mind, I have to transform my sanskaras. It's as simple as that. And that's why Baba uses this term limited and unlimited. You know, good and bad and all of that. Those are, the mind is very judgmental and the intellect is also judgmental because it's working on a spectrum of black and white. And it's determined by selfish interest. You know, I will support this side or I will not support this side based on are they friends with me or are they not friends with me? Did they do right to me? Did they not do right to me? But what Baba is saying is that a soul conscious vision will be, you know, we all in it together. We all wrong. We look at both sides. And we're not just looking at the side that hurt me or the side that was the injustice. You look at the perpetrators and you look at the victims, both sides, which Baba is doing. And so how do I see through the eyes of soul consciousness, which is closest to the eyes of God? So I don't discriminate against other people because that's a sin to discriminate against one based on color, creed, caste, religion. You know, it's like taking the law in your own hand and then you're going to you created a karmic account with them, even at the thought level, and that will come back to you. You will be discriminated against in that sense. So it's a very deep thing, the whole thing of consciousness. And then of course, all the prejudices, all the biases, all the duality of victim, perpetrator, and all of that lives in the attitude. Lives in the attitude. And so attitude doesn't ask permission to express itself. It's there before you can even think.
Yeah.
Your attitude shows up before you. Your attitude is your presence. And it shows up even before you can think what to say. The person already knows. They already put up their barriers because your attitude just shows up. So,
But attitude is coming from sanskars too, right?
of course, they all operate together. It's like your body.
Yeah,
You can't
together.
say, yeah, you can't say, you know, my heart is fine, but my lung is not. All our organs are interconnected. And so they all, when it comes to survival of the body, they all get together. You know, a doctor told me that it's not easy to die. And I looked at him and he said, because the body is so resilient, it fights for its survival. It fights at the very end. And everything in the body is fighting for that survival. It's not just your heart. So he said, you know, if you want to know about resilience, you have to know about your body in that sense, because it really does fight. And to live, because that's the nature of matter, you know, it fights to it kind of reboot itself. But then what makes us leave the body, it's our karmic accounts too, the soul's karmic accounts with its body. So it's all very, very interconnected. So we can't piecemeal it, but we have to look at where the strengths lie. So for instance, when Baba said that you each have a very unique strength inside of you, I wouldn't look in my mind for that strength. But I'd look to see what is emerging from within me that makes me feel my core strength. You know, it's like your core strength of the body. There's also a core strength of the soul. And to identify the core strength of the body, you have to see the body as a whole being. So therefore, to identify the core strength of the soul, you have to see the whole soul as a whole being. And that only happens when I'm in Baba's remembrance. That's why he says first, consider yourself to be a soul and remember me, the supreme soul. He doesn't say consider yourself to be a mind or an intellect or the sanskaras, but he says consider yourself, be aligned. Everything comes in alignment, and then remember me. But then he warns us, your intellect is the wandering stick. It will start wandering all about. And so then the yoga of the intellect is very important. So when the intellect, because the intellect is controlling the mind now. So wherever the intellect, it's like the intellect is now driving the car. And when you're learning to drive, it says, wherever you look, your car will go in that direction. You're the control of the car. You're driving that car. So you keep your eyes on the road. So the intellect is the eye of the soul. So the intellect, wherever the intellect keeps its eye, the mind will follow it. So if the intellect is wandering, the mind will also wander. So that's why he says yoga of the intellect, keep the intellect on the straight and narrow and remember me. And the function of the intellect is to remember. Okay.
Thank you. I just wanted to introduce the kids to you. So of course, you know Dia. You
I
can
know.
wave.
Hi,
So
Dia.
Dia is
You're
the
getting older and older every time I see you.
she's a teenager now.
She's not a kid anymore. You have to create a teenage group.
Yeah, she's a teenager.
I've been listening to your meditation commentaries. And they're so beautiful, so powerful.
Thank you.
And then we have Vanshika.
Who's
You
Vanshika?
saying something, Dia?
I'm going to say I had a list of questions, but I'm looking forward for next time when you come.
I notice you still have an Indian accent. Are you not going to change it to an American accent?
No, it switches back. It's complicated.
Okay, I'm going to hear about the complications when we talk.
And then there's Vanshika. So Vanshika, she's 10.
Where's
Vanshika's 10.
Vanshika? Vanshika, where are you?
Vanshika, raise your wave.
Oh, hi. Did I meet you
I don't
when I
know.
was there, Vanshika?
Last year, no, you didn't meet her. I think they were traveling.
Your
Yeah.
face looks very familiar though. Okay.
And then there's Joshit. Joshit is 9 or 8.
Oh,
So this is Joshit.
No,
Joshit is like this encyclopedia. He
Oh,
reads a lot and he's currently reading Story of Immortality. He finished Adi Dev, he's reading Story of Immortality.
great.
So that's Joshit. And then we have Khushi. Khushi means happiness. So we have Khushi with us.
Hi,
Khushi
Khushi. How
and
are
her
you?
brother.
And what's your brother's name?
Kershav,
Krishab. And what does Krishab mean?
Lord Krishna bless you. Okay.
Baby Krishna.
Oh, okay.
And then we have Druhi. Is she there? She's 5. Okay. Druhi and Tejas, they're about the same age. They're like 4.5 or 5 years old. So they come and go. And when you ask them to share a point, they'll have like 1 point to share.
That's beautiful. You know, I'm going to, I have to go now, but I'm doing a program at the UN for Yoga Day because the UN is shut down. It's not going to be open for Yoga Day on the 21st of June. And I'm trying to create a global meditation commentary by young people. And we're still figuring it out. So I'll get in touch with you for some of them to participate. And they have 3 days. They have to create the commentary. They have to practice the commentary. They have to become the embodiment of the message they're giving through the commentary. And then they will go on, I think the platform is Facebook Live, then they will go and do it live. But they're offering an experience. And we're calling it Youths Unite in Yoga. So this is going to be the project. So maybe I will be with you to talk about it. And
Sure.
maybe after the 25th, because as I said, I'm going into silence tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm Rit Vela. I come out on Sunday. So maybe the following week or something we could do
Following
something.
weekend? Yeah.
Following weekend we could do.
30th or 31st?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Or even Memorial Day. I think that's Monday, no? So we'll be.
Yeah,
think
but
everyone will
Memorial
be
Day is
off.
also a good day. Yeah.
Yeah.
See.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Om Shanti,
Thank you,
everyone.
sister.
Om
Om Shanti.
Shanti.
Let's
Bye.
wave
Om
out and
Om
say Om
Shanti.
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 Om
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 Shanti.
Shanti.
Shanti. Thank you.
Om Shanti.
Bye.